it's difficult to choose just one commander from the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Universes Beyond set, what with all the cool nostalgia and the surprisingly large amount of overly attractive legends like this sexy cat, or this sexy demon, or this sexy shark. My, in the words of Casey Jones, this set is truly a goon gala. Welcome to Absolute Cardboard, and today we're taking a look at the sexiest commander from the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set, Bebop and Rocksteady. And this won't be a linear deck, no, we will have like 4 or 5 different paths to victory. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the Patreon for early and exclusive videos. But for now, let's take a look at Bebop and Rocksteady. Bebop and Rocksteady are a 3-mana value legendary boar rhino mutant that whenever you attack with them, you sacrifice a permanent unless you discard a card. It is a 7/5. Now, just a cool side note, whenever I personally see a creature with 2 more power than its toughness, I always consider that kind of a juggernaut stat line, and juggernauts have been very important to the history of Magic the Gathering. Taking a look at Bebop and Rocksteady, we can see that it's very big, very inexpensive, and it gives you a once-a-turn either sacrifice outlet or discard effect. Now, it's not the best Voltron commander, nor is it the best sacrifice commander or the best discard outlet in your command zone, but it might be the best commander that checks all those boxes. So today, I want to present a deck list that has multiple paths to victory. The full deck list will be in the description below, as well as links to all the ways to support the channel. And feel free to check the pinned comment for any potential corrections or errors in the video. And without further ado, I present Bebop and Rocksteady Conquer the Universe. To play the deck, we want Bebop and Rocksteady out as soon as possible so that we can get our discarding online ASAP and the aggressive beats going right away. And to that end, we have our entire ramp package being just 1 mana value dorks. Soul Ring and Delighted Halfling are probably the best of the bunch, but they're all just there to be 1-drops to get to Bebop and Rocksteady on turn 2. Birds of Paradise, Elvish Mystic, Wild Growth, Elves of Deep Shadow, Llanowar Elves, and Finhorde Elves are all perfect for this role. Rounding out the ramp is Boreal Druid and Gilded Goose, which are probably the worst of the bunch, but totally serviceable. You could potentially get color screwed with the Boreal Druid, and Gilded Goose isn't a guaranteed mana on turn 2, and it will be worse overall through the course of the game for generating mana, but it will be better at some incremental life gain and making artifacts, so there is some potential upside there. Since we're planning on getting Bebop and Rocksteady out as soon as possible, commencing with the beats, we should probably run some things that will make Bebop and Rocksteady more of a threat to win via commander damage. The first card for this section is Berserk, which can be an instant kill a lot of the time. To support it, we run a handful of instants that provide a buff and trample in Overprotect, Massive Might, and Blitzball Shot. These are great ways to finish off a player who expects to chump block Bebop and Rocksteady and end up losing. Revitalizing Repass, Strength of Will, and Tyvar Stand are defensive spells, but we'll give a buff to Bebop and Rocksteady through counters or temporary stats. And we round out the section with Hunter's Talent, which is just a very good card with Bebop and Rocksteady and does just about everything we want it to. And Guardian Augmenter, which is kind of like a protective spell, but on a creature, which is somewhat important, but we'll get to that later. In addition to making Bebop and Rocksteady more effective in combat, we can also just remove potential obstacles in the combat zone with Golgari's terrific removal. Archfiend of Infear will let you shrink your opponent's boards potentially every time you attack with Bebop and Rocksteady. This is the closest thing to a wipe that this deck runs, as this deck doesn't really care about controlling the board. If you want to flat out replace it with a Damnation type effect, feel free. Next, we have a bunch of removal that works super well with Bebop and Rocksteady, costing 1 or even 0 mana. Deadly Rollick and Slaughter Pact are both good and more or less free. Bone Shards will let you leverage some of your mana dorks into inexpensive removal, and Big Game Hunter and Dark Withering can both trigger off of a Bebop and Rocksteady attack. I'll talk more about Madness in general in a little bit, but just know that destroying a creature for 1 black mana is very good. Colony Ambush is fine, but mostly here for the land versatility purposes. And we finish off the interaction with Terra Sunder and Assassin's Trophy, both of which will take care of almost anything on the board, but Golgari has a ton of great removal, so you have lots of options if you have a preference you'd rather run here in these flex type slots. Since we want to attack with Bebop and Rocksteady, we'll need to be discarding or sacrificing, so this section will focus on cards that are pretty good when you discard them. We'll start with Brawn and Grave Scrabbler. Brawn is a pretty obvious inclusion, and Grave Scrabbler is one of the few Madness cards to make the deck. Previous iterations of this deck were more focused on Madness effects, but I felt they just didn't really pack enough punch to build around it as a bigger theme, so I just used the ones that were key to the strategies and incredibly cost efficient. Scavenge Brawler and Karsi Revenant can both be exiled from your graveyard to super power up Bebop and Rocksteady. These are both playable on their own, but they also work well with our next batch of trash cards, the Dredge package. Stinkweed Imp, Moldervine Cloak, Graveshell Scarab, and Golgari Thug. All of them have their uses, but they're mostly just there to get more cards into your graveyard. And that is important because the second path to victory is Reanimation. Let's get more into that by discussing some rock hard dudes that we hope to bin. Archon of Cruelty is kind of a gold standard of value as a reanimation target, but with most of these you can run your own favorite reanimation targets of choice. Beledros Witherbloom will create a bunch of pets, which can help being sacrificed to Bebop and Rocksteady instead of always having to discard, but most importantly this will give you a potential full mana refresh, allowing you to hardcast some of these other rock hard dudes. Golgari Grave Troll is another big boy that can kind of reanimate itself, but it also helps with the dredging to get more rock hard dudes into the bin. So you can use your reanimations on them while the GGT just keeps bringing itself back. Giant Ankeg and Stonehoof Chieftain are rock hard dudes that also protect your Bebop and Rocksteady, making them great number 2s in a 1-2 combo. Zapantral Hunger Dominus will give a pseudo berserk to your Bebop and Rocksteady, as well as any other big rock hard dudes that you have, making this a pretty good finisher. Titanoth Rex or Godzilla Primeval Champion, whichever one you prefer, can put themselves into the bin while giving Bebop and Rocksteady trample, and then be reanimated later for another potent team of trampling rock hard dudes. Shadowgrange Archfiend is a great way to gain a bunch of life. It can be cast for cheap from a Bebop and Rocksteady attack, or it's just another value piece that can be reanimated from the bin. It's just a great card in this deck. To bring our dudes back, we're going to run a small but classic reanimation package. Living Death, Stitch Together, Reanimate, and Animate Dead. Nothing groundbreaking here, but I will say that if you prefer a stronger reanimation package, you can cut some of the cards from the Berserker section to focus the deck more towards reanimation. In fact, going a whole hog on either commander damage or reanimation is probably better in the long run if you want to win more games, but I like a bit of a challenge, so I'm diversifying my offensive strategies. Sometimes when we attack with Bebop and Rocksteady, we won't be discarding super optimal cards. Sometimes we'll just dump cards and we'll need to recoup those eventually. Luckily, we have some mana dorks that don't do a whole lot outside of the first few turns of the game, so we can leverage them with Village Rites style cards like Village Rites and Corrupted Conviction. I also run Deadly Dispute, Reckoner's Bargain, Nasty End, and Eviscerator's Insight as 2 mana value card draws, and each one of them has a little bit of upside. Containment Construct gives kind of everything you discard madness. Like, not exactly madness, but enough madness that you'll start humming the tune to our house. Oversold Cemetery will get you a curated creature draw each upkeep. This could easily be replaced by something like Phyrexian Arena. Now we get to a few card draw cards that, well, I'm not super sold on, let alone super oversold like a Cemetery. Bugenhagen Wise Elder and Genova Ancient Calamity. Bugenhagen, besides having like a German rock star name and being totally cool, is a serviceable 2 mana dork. It and Bebop and Rocksteady have to survive a full round together to get the card, so I think again this is something that probably is just better as Phyrexian Arena, and that may be a better draw tool in the long run, but I'm willing to give this a shot, especially since Phyrexian Arena is so prevalent and in so many of my decks. A change of pace is always good. Genova Ancient Calamity isn't necessarily an active card draw, but will slowly buff Bebop and Rocksteady, and the threat of drawing a bunch of cards if you kill them will be used kind of as sort of a deterrent to interaction on them. And as a last resort, you can Village Rite effect your own Bebop and Rocksteady to draw a butt ton of cards. I run a small package of cards that will come back from the dead on their own and provide repeating big threats. I'll start with my personal favorite and Muldrotha Garuda All-Star Centaur Vinecrasher. I've made a short about it and have a lengthy section in my Muldrotha video about Centaur Vinecrasher, but I'll just say this, it's good and it is criminally underplayed in graveyard strategy decks. Similarly, Sandman Shifting Scoundrel is a terrific alternate threat in just about any graveyard strategy that will also naturally grow itself and get you a bit of slow ramp throughout the course of the game. And finally, Jared Golgari Lich runs out the package of big individual threats that can take over a game due to the huge stats they can put on the board. We can win through commander damage and reanimating rock hard dudes, as well as having a handful of perpetual threats, but we also have 2 win conditions that most people won't see coming. Mortal Kombat, besides being misspelled, is just a straight path to victory. We don't run an insane amount of creatures, so our graveyards won't be overflowing with creatures, but after a longish game we should have enough to trigger the win condition, hopefully while applying pressure through other means so that the table has to answer different types of threats in one turn. This is one of the payoffs of running an extra creature spell effect like Bugenhagen instead of a traditional card draw. The extra dudes will make this hit slightly more often. Now, that being said, if this is in your opening hand, you should probably consider a mulligan. And now my personal favorite win condition, Xenagos. I think that's how you pronounce it. Xenos can serve as a mini board wipe, but you do want to pair this off with something that can be easily killed. Then you can threaten lethal command or damage with Bebop and Rocksteady at a player and use one of your cheap or free interactions that instantly killed that paired creature, flip Xenos over to the Shinru side, choose an opponent that you were going to attack anyways, and then hopefully win the game. This is where stuff like Deadly Rollick and Slaughter Pact really shine. Getting an instant and free flip to the Shinru side is just really cool, and no one sees it coming. And after all, it is much easier to kill one opponent than an entire table, and Xenos will allow you to do that. For utility lands, I only think two really fit the theme of the deck, and those are Xenagos, the Restless Tomb, and Shifting Woodland. Golgari has a buttload of terrific utility lands in addition to staples like Dust Bowl or Wasteland or Strip Mine, so feel free to add a few of those if you like for your particular meta, but in general I think these two are the ones you really want. Now, this is a standard 2-color mana base, which I currently have looking like this. I did a 2-mana color-based video if you need some tips on making one for yourself, and that'll be in the description below, but in general, it shouldn't be too complicated. This deck is bracket 2 with no game changers, no extra turns, no mass land denial, and I think that's probably about the right bracket as far as intent goes as well. As I mentioned before, you could focus on just one avenue of attack and optimize it, but I feel like that would require upping the power level and budget and bracket, none of which I'm super interested in. Speaking of budget, the budget for my build comes in at about $300, but most of that is in a lot of the key lands, so if you want a worse mana base, you can make this a lot cheaper. And while it doesn't have any budget busters, it does have a lot of cards in like the $5 to $10 range, and that can add up. Now, in general, I would want to make sure an opening hand has a piece of ramp to get Bebop and Rocksteady out on turn 2, and potentially some card draw to keep the pressure up. You definitely want to be aggressive with this deck and keep your opponents on the back foot so that your other tangents of attack are more effective. If you are the type of person who doesn't like initiating combat, or like you like to roll a dice to determine who to attack, this may not be the deck for you. But if you are looking for an aggressive deck that keeps people on their toes, Bebop and Rocksteady might be right for you. If you think you might enjoy a more focused graveyard recursion style deck, check out my deck tech video on Muldrotha with Garuda as the companion. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more content like this, and check out the links in the description to help out the channel. And until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.